Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimNFL show. Real talk about fake sports. I am your host and commissioner. You can call me Pierce. Today we are covering all of the Week 15 action of the 2026 season of the Pro Football Sim over at SimSN. If you're unfamiliar, come check us out on the website and on Discord. We would love to have you. So as usual today, we're going to start with our stats and summaries for all of the Week 15 games. The first of the final 4 weeks of the season, with all bye weeks done and all teams playing. Then we will end with my choices for the players of the week. We'll do a quick injury update, look at the NFL standings, both by division and by conference, so we can talk about the playoff race. And then our feature for this and likely the next couple of weeks is going to be updates on extension offers. Our first sync ran yesterday, so we get to look at some early numbers of who's accepted and who is still negotiating. We won't have full dollars available, but we will have at least values. So we'll be able to get a kind of a broad look of the kind of deals that players are getting. And then, of course, we will end with my preview for the upcoming week, which is Week 16. So with all that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. So we had a high-scoring AFC game on Thursday night between the Broncos and Jaguars, with Denver coming out on top 47-34 was the final there. Jacksonville got things started with the scoring. On their first drive, Rivera hit Madruga for a 25-yard gain, and then later threw a 6-yard touchdown pass to Perez for the early lead. After giving up a field goal, Jacksonville on their second drive went 71 yards in 14 plays, including a perfect 3 for 3 on third downs. That drive ended with a Peterson 4-yard touchdown carry, extending the lead to 14-3. But the Broncos would respond. A Ryan Johnson carry for 30, setting up a touchdown pass from Peter London to Stelly from 14 yards out, cutting the lead down to 14-10. The Jaguars later would drive to the Broncos' 45-yard line before Hucon fumble was caused by Russell Garbon. Denver would recover the ball, drive 10 plays the other direction, and then Thomas Gezik would get the score on this drive, a 6-yard rushing touchdown, to give the Broncos their first lead at 17-14. Going to the third quarter now, Peter London on a drive had a 30-yard carry, and then he handed off to his tight end, Sobervilla, on a 10-yard option carry off the triple option for a 10-yard touchdown that made it 27-14. Later, Sobervilla would have a second touchdown run in this game, this one from 3 yards out. That got the Broncos to break 40. The Jaguars would score on the ensuing kickoff as Barry Madruga took it 94 yards for a score. That made it 42-21 at that point. Later then in the fourth quarter, London had a 5-yard touchdown run, and the Broncos were able to sail from there. So big day for Barry Madruga, 9 catches, 115 yards, and a 94-yard kickoff return. But the Broncos offense proved too much to stop as they put up 47 points. Thomas Gezik led them 16 carries, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Rob Downing, 4 of 4 in field goals, 5 of 5 in extra points. Perfect day for him. Nearly perfect day for Peter London, 15 of 16, 141 yards and a touchdown, plus another 59 yards and a touchdown rushing to lead the Broncos to victory on Thursday night. In the NFC, it was a close game between Washington and Detroit, with the Commanders coming out on top 24-20. We didn't get our first touchdown in this game until the second quarter, when Washington went 74 yards in 10 plays, with Morrison finding JaVale Knee for a 4-yard touchdown and the 7-3 lead. On the next drive, Randall Hansen was picked by strong safety Patrick Collins with a great return, and that meant just 2 plays later, Morrison found his tight end Sebastian Moore for a 9-yard touchdown to extend the lead. In the third quarter, Lions would cut into that with a big special teams play. Huey Ash returning a punt 62 yards, getting knocked out at the 1-yard line, which meant Richard Bianchi had the pleasure of running that touchdown in from a yard out. Lions would fail the 2-point conversion, so they would still be down 14-12 at that point. Then, still in the third quarter, Washington would drive to the Lions' 38-yard line. But on a 3rd and 1, they would lose a couple yards, and then they would miss a 57-yard field goal, though credit to Jeffrey Leon, who would hit a 58-yarder just a little bit later in the third quarter. Going to the fourth now, Lions had a great drive where Hansen found Tony Sherman for 17, and then Bullock for another 17, setting up a touchdown run by Tremaine Craig from 3 yards out. Lions would get that 2-point conversion. Bianchi ran it in, and then the Lions were up 20-17 with 6:09 to go. Shades of how they beat Carolina with a late drive, but in this case they gave the Commanders too much time. Commanders went 66 yards in 11 plays. Morrison on this drive was 7 of 9, including one of those 7 completions was a go-ahead touchdown to Gonzalez from 11 yards out. That made it 24-20, Washington retaking the lead with 1:29 to go. Lions would drive to midfield, but then a Hansen second interception of the game, this one intercepted by John Warnock, would end the game in Washington's favor. So Jerome Morrison, 31 of 52 on the day, 281 yards and 3 touchdowns. Patrick Collins did a bit of everything, a tackle for loss, 2 pass breakups, and an interception. Bradley Cook had a big day for the Lions, 4.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. And Huey Ash had 3 pass breakups in addition to that great punt return. After all was said and done, Washington came out ahead, 24-20. Again, is your final. The Panthers outlasted the Bills by a final score of 41-33. Carolina was airing it out early. In the first quarter, Link found Russell Barnes for a 21-yard gain, then Fernando Owens for another 21 that led to a Kelvin Dupree 4-yard touchdown run. Later, though, the Bills would get on the board with Brogdon having a 49-yard touchdown run, making it 10-7. Bills actually took the lead at that point. And then after a Carolina field goal tied it, on the next drive, Asensio found Donald Kelly for 51, and then Kelly again for a 3-yard touchdown, breaking the tie, giving the Bills the lead again, 17-10. But then in the final 3 minutes before halftime, Carolina drove 72 yards in 8 plays. Lovejoy caught 4 passes on that drive for 56 yards, including the 11-yard touchdown with just seconds remaining in the half. So it was 20-17 Buffalo there at the halfway point. And then Carolina would take the opening second half kickoff 92 yards for a touchdown. That was Samuel Frazier on the return. So with the touchdown right before halftime and the opening kickoff after, Carolina would take the lead. Then later in the third quarter, Link added again, Lovejoy for 24, setting up a 7-yard touchdown pass to Marco Thompson, extending the lead to 34-20 at that point. And then again in the fourth, Link to Kelvin Dupree, a 4-yard touchdown pass to make it 41-20. Looked like the Bills might be down and out, but they would work down the field on a couple of drives, get a couple of field goals. And then later in the fourth quarter, Asensio would hit Kelly for a 16-yard gain, Donatello Scott for 17, J.C. Lacey for 24. All of that would set up Brogdon's second touchdown run of the game from 6 yards out. And with just over 3.5 minutes to go, the Bills were within 8 at 41-33. And then their defense forced Carolina to go 3 and out. They punted to the Buffalo 27 with 2:20 remaining. Asensio hit Kelly again for a 22-yard gain. But three plays later, Asensio was sacked by Michael Barrera, who not only got the sack, forced a fumble, and recovered the fumble, giving Carolina the ball and the win. So Dakota Link, 36 of 57, 431 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Asensio, 34 of 54, 362 yards and a touchdown. 215 yards and a score from George Lovejoy on 14 catches. Donald Kelly, 12 catches, 196 yards and a touchdown. 3 sacks from Vince Gresham, 3 sacks plus the forced fumble and the recovery from Michael Barrera, 3 sacks from Jordan Burris, 4 passes defended from Samuel Frazier, 4 passes defended from Hugo Hernandez. Just a huge stat game all over. And when all the stats are tallied up, Panthers do win this one. 41-33 is your final. On the opposite side of things, it was a defensive struggle in the AFC South, with the Titans beating the Texans 15-13. In the first quarter, the Titans had a short punt from their own 18, which gave the Texans great field position, and they would turn that into a long field goal and a 3-0 lead. Tennessee would respond, though, driving 46 yards in 12 plays, letting Richard Yob kick his first of 5 field goals on the day to tie it up 3-3. Late in the second quarter, a Travis Neeble interception by Kennedy was returned all the way to the Texans' 13-yard line. Titans couldn't punch it in from there. They had 2 incompletions and then took a sack, so ended that drive with a 41-yard field goal. Later in the third quarter, Will Outman threw an interception to Dominic Flexen, which led to a Texans field goal and a 6-6 tie game. Then later, still in the third, another Outman interception, this time to the linebacker, Amichia. Travis Neeble took over through a 19-yard completion to Thomas Rothschild to convert a 3rd and 11. And then Neeble threw a touchdown pass to Ryan Leiden from 9 yards out, putting the Texans on top 13-6. Still in the third, Marcus Detweiler got a short turn at quarterback for the Texans, with Neeble out on stamina issues. And Detweiler would throw an interception to Garrett Smith, which led to yet another short Titans field goal. In the fourth quarter, Houston would drive to the Tennessee 37-yard line, but another interception, this one thrown by Neeble to Sergio Collins, would prevent them from extending their lead. Titans would take over, drive to the Houston 5-yard line, but they were forced into yet another field goal with 9:23 to go, meaning the Texans were still on top 13-12, but the Titans would get a stop, run the ball down to the Houston 36-yard line, and Yob would nail a 53-yard go-ahead field goal with about 5.5 minutes to go. Texans, though, still had a chance. Neeble found Rothschild for a 22-yard gain, and ultimately would set up a field goal attempt with about 3 minutes to go, but they would miss the go-ahead attempt from 47 yards out. Titans would then run for 2 first downs to completely kill the clock and escape with the victory. So Richard Yob is the hero of the day, 5 of 5 on field goals with a long of 53, responsible for all the Titans' points. Will Outman was 13 of 29 for 77 yards and a couple picks, also had 60 rushing yards on 19 carries. Joseph Kale added 137 yards on 30 carries. And Garrett Smith had a tackle for loss, forced a fumble, and had an interception for the Titans. The Rams beat the Chiefs 27-17 was the score there. The Rams' first drive actually started all the way at the Chiefs' 8-yard line after a good punt return and then a roughness penalty on the Chiefs. Avila made quick work of that, finding Bruce Dawson for a touchdown pass and an early 7-0 lead. Later, a chop interception to strong safety Darrell Lee would lead to a Rams field goal. Chop would get intercepted again on the next drive, again by Darrell Lee, but this time the Rams would not be able to score. Avila would throw his own interception to Weibao 2 plays later, and the lead was still at 10. In the second quarter, the Rams drove all the way to the Chiefs' 2-yard line, but on second and third and goal from the 2, they were stuffed on back-to-back plays, settled for a field goal there. And then the Chiefs' next drive, David Chop came alive. He found his tight end Van Slyke for 19. Chiefs fullback Aminu carried for a 28-yard gain. Van Slyke caught another pass for 17, and then ultimately James Carter ran it in from a yard out to cut the lead to 13-10. But the Rams would regain the full lead in the first drive of the third quarter. Avila to Leclerc for 23, to Slamba for 17, and then a short touchdown pass to backup running back Jake Duda made it 20-10. In the fourth quarter, Chiefs would get close yet again. Carter running for 25. That set up a touchdown catch by the fullback Aminu from 8 yards out, making it 20-17. But the Rams would respond once again in kind. Avila finding Slamba for 20, then finding Bruce Dawson for another 25. And then ultimately it was Scott Baldwin who would catch the final touchdown from 10 yards out. Rams took the lead 27-17, or extended that lead with about 6.5 minutes to go. Chiefs weren't done, to their credit. They fought back. They went all the way to the Rams' 30-yard line. Unfortunately, they would miss a field goal, meaning it was still a 2-score game, and the Rams would spend the rest of the clock driving down to the Kansas City 1-yard line. So Avila, 37 of 53, 409 yards passing, 3 touchdowns and a pick. David Chop had 161 passing yards, but 2 interceptions. He also had a fumble in the game as well. James Carter led everyone with 138 rushing yards and a touchdown. Darrell Lee had a couple of picks for the Rams, and it is the Rams that come away with the win here. The 49ers beat the Saints 20-10. 49ers scored first. Late in the first quarter, Scott Romero found Bates for a 15-yard gain, and then his running back Nebel for another 17 that led to a short field goal. The next drive, Landrum was intercepted by Igwebuike, which led to another 49ers field goal, making it 6-0. In the second quarter, it looked like the Saints, might take the lead. They drove all the way to the San Francisco 13, thanks in large part to a Landrum completion to Daniel Castro for 27. But they were then pushed back by consecutive sacks that would have to settle for a field goal before the half. In the third quarter, Saints had the ball. Charles Brown had made a short catch, but then fumbled the ball. Fumble forced by Bobby Gonzalez. That led to yet another San Francisco field goal and a 9-3 lead. The Saints, though, would take the lead on a bizarre special teams play in which their defensive end, Paul Munford, apparently ran for a 70-yard punt return touchdown. Yeah, I don't know how that happened. That's just how it shows up on the interface. Paul Munford's 70-yard punt return touchdown. Rams take the lead, Saints, take the lead 10-9. Then in the fourth quarter, Romero was picked by Medrano, and he returned to the San Francisco 40-yard line. Looks like Saints could extend their lead. They got called for holding penalties, 2 holding penalties in 3 plays, ultimately put them out of field goal range. They were forced to punt. So then, with 3:49 left in the game, Romero had the play of the day, a 56-yard bomb to Carlos Ramos on a deep play action pass to take the lead with the big touchdown pass, and then Vontae Nebel ran a 2-point conversion, make it 17-10. And then the very next play from scrimmage, Landrum was intercepted by linebacker Ramon Wells. San Francisco ran 3 plays to run out the clock, kicked the field goal, and won the game by a final score of 20-10. Scott Romero, 10 completions on 21 attempts, 153 yards, touchdown, interception, and a fumble. Vontae Nebel had 97 yards on 18 touches. For the Saints, Landrum was 24 of 44 for 234 yards and 2 picks for him. Brett McPhail had a great day, 5 tackles for loss, including a sack, and Arthur Medrano had that big interception, as did Chris Igwebuike. 49ers with the win in this one, 22-10. As for the rest of the Week 15 scoreboard, the Bears won their 5th in a row, defeating Cleveland 28-13. Lewis was 37 of 57 for 355 passing yards, a touchdown, and a couple picks. Pittsburgh ran all over the Jets, 41-13. Robert Morris was 12 of 18, passing 153 yards and 2 touchdowns, plus 95 rushing yards and 2 more touchdowns on the ground. Philadelphia beat New England 27-12. Moncrief completed 19 of his 32 passes for 175 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Dallas beat the New York Giants 36-22. Vladimir Dawson had 102 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns on just 17 carries. Tampa Bay beat Seattle 21-10. Travis Kingery 16 of 25, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Miami shut out the Indianapolis Colts 37-0. Dean Hammonds was 23 of 27, 298 yards, and 4 touchdowns. The Chargers beat Las Vegas, keep their playoff hopes alive. 35-20 was the final score. Aguilera completed 21 of 28 passes, 182 passing yards, a touchdown, a pick, and 158 rushing yards on 24 carries. Green Bay beat rival Minnesota 36-13. Joseph Garibay 36 of 45, 352 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Baltimore beat Cincinnati 30-12. DeAndre Wieters 11 carries, 163 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns for the Ravens. And then on Monday night, Atlanta handled Arizona 34-6. Rashawn Lyons 15 of 26, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So with all that said, here are my selections for the players of the week. Dean Hammonds, as many incompletions as he had touchdowns in his victory, 23 of 27 with 4 touchdowns. Robert Morris with those 4 total touchdowns, 2 passing and 2 rushing. DeAndre Wieters, as we said, a couple of touchdowns on 163 rushing yards. And then George Lovejoy and Donald Kelly with huge receiving games in the same game against each other. 215 on a score for Lovejoy, 196 on a score for Kelly. And then for the defense special teams side, got to call out linebacker Dennis Jones, 15 tackles, including 3 for loss, a sack, and a pick. Donald Dingus, 3 interceptions for the Giants. And then Josh Nelson of the Chargers, 7 of 7 in field goals, tying a SimNFL record with 7 completed field goals along a 52, a couple of extra points in there, helping the Chargers defeat the Raiders. And then for defensive tackle, man, it was a choice. Ultimately, call out Michael Barrera for his 3 sacks and that key fumble and recovery to clinch the game for Carolina. And then Paul McHenry, 7 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. Just to give you an idea of the other potentials for this prize, defensive tackle Alejandro Rua of Seattle, 11 tackles, 5 for a loss and a sack. David Bookheit of the Packers, 4 tackles, 3 for a loss and 3 sacks. Jordan Burris of Buffalo, 3 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Hyun Shin of Washington, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Bradley Cook of Detroit, 4.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. Neil Henry of Minnesota, 3.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. 6 other defensive tackles who all had phenomenal games and deserve their props as well. So congratulations to all of these players for being named my players of the week for Week 15. As far as the injury report, new names to note here: Jeff Hawley of Houston had a high ankle sprain. He won't be running for them for a couple of weeks. Taylor Allen, the young tight end from Seattle, a groin injury, will be out for next week. Stephen Humphries for Washington, separating his shoulder, will miss a couple of weeks as well. As for recoveries, Green Bay's linebacker Benjamin Hanbury recovered from that MCL bruise. He's eligible to play again. The Jets guard David DeGirolamo recovered from his foot injury. The 34-year-old should be back in the lineup next week. And then Tampa Bay's defensive end Darryl Sadler recovered from his shoulder injury and should be good to go as well. So here are where things stand in the AFC. Steelers still, or now have a 1-game lead over the Browns. Titans and Jaguars still knotted at 7-7 with 1 game between them still to come. Dolphins have opened up a 3-game lead on the Jets and are very close to clinching the East. Broncos have clinched the West based on division record, if nothing else. 3 games ahead in the West with 3 weeks to go. Chiefs and Raiders still very much alive and leading the wild card race. Jets in there as well. So for the playoffs, Denver has clinched the West, can do no worse than the number 2 seed. Miami has clinched a playoff spot. If they get one more win, or if the Jets lose one more, that'll assure the Dolphins the East Division, meaning they can finish no worse than second in the conference as well. Steelers and Titans leading their divisions, and then the Chiefs top wild card at 10-4. Chiefs are a win and a Chargers loss away from clinching at least a wild card. Jets and Raiders are at 9 wins. Chargers right behind the Raiders, 1 game back. And then Browns and Jaguars still technically in the wild card hunt, although best chance for them is catching up in their division. Browns have a victory over the Steelers and 1 game remaining. So Browns control their own destiny. Jaguars do as well. There's still a game remaining with the Titans, and they are even at 7-7. So a lot that could still change, both in terms of placement and seeding, with these top 10 teams in the AFC. On the NFC side, Packers still on the top in the North, now at 10-4. Panthers having wrapped up the South. Commanders and Cowboys both in double-digit wins in the East. And then in the West, Rams sitting pretty at 11-3. Seahawks still alive for that final wildcard spot at 7-7, but it's getting closer and closer as the weeks move on. So the top 5 in the NFC have all clinched at least a spot in the playoffs. Rams and Panthers clinching their division. Washington, just by virtue of being at 11 wins, will get at least a wild card. Same with Dallas at 10 wins. They have the head-to-head victory over the Bears, should it come to that. They're 3 games up with 3 to go. And then Green Bay at 10 wins, with their great conference record, has clinched a spot as well. Detroit currently in the 6th seed with 9 wins. They can clinch the playoffs with a win and a Chicago loss. They'll have the tiebreakers they need. And then the final spot, there are a lot of teams who are still technically alive. We got a couple of 6-8 teams and 5-9 teams that have not been mathematically eliminated. But right now, the focus is on the Seahawks and the Bears. Seahawks have been in that 7 spot for a while, but the Bears have won 5 straight. The Bears started 0-5, and then were 2-7, now 7-7, and don't entirely control their own destiny. They would, even if they won out, they would need the Seahawks to lose at least one more. But Bears are on a winning streak and threatening the Seahawks for that last spot in the NFC. So a bit of movement in the current draft order. Cincy and Indianapolis moving up. Baltimore going down with their win over the Bengals. Couple of other moves, and then the biggest things to note, again, the Rams have number 6 with the Texans first round draft pick from their trade last year. And then Detroit having Tampa Bay as that pick is now number 12 as a result of the Kingery trade last year. So, as I mentioned earlier this week, yesterday there was the first extension sync. Those are going to happen every Monday afternoon through the day after the Super Bowl. So I believe that's 8 syncs in total. And we got our first look at some of the offers that players have accepted. Again, right now we just have values, which is just a single number. We don't necessarily know how many years or the exact dollar amounts unless teams share those. But as we go, especially as we look at different position groups, you should be able to see some of the groupings, some of those that stand out a little bit, or a lot of those of a similar ability who are lumped together. So we're going to take a look at some of the values that players have accepted or turned down, and we'll keep this going through the next few weeks as well. So on the offensive side, Rashawn Lyons got an offer from Atlanta, so he should be sticking around there. The biggest extension we've heard so far, and might be this offseason, unless the Vikings do something crazy with Christian Sinnock, is David Chop, the 32-year-old quarterback, got a new contract with a value of $34, which is very close to his asking price. So KC really rolling out the big bucks to keep Chop around for at least, presumably, the next couple of years. They also extended Chris Butera, their young guard, with a value of $22. And then a whole host of wide receivers got extensions. Richard McGuire, the big one there, who a little bit higher overall, but also a couple years older, with a value of 24. And then Jones, Williams III, and Ramos, all in that 25-26 age. So, first couple of draft classes, getting numbers in the high teens and low 20s for Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco, respectively. Had a lot of accepted offers on the defense, so break it up for a couple different views. As far as defensive linemen, again, Juwan Hilton is the big name here. Only a 70 overall. Got a really, really nice deal. Guessing he's an edge rusher. I don't know that for sure. Edge do tend to make a little bit more than other linemen. So value of 24 is really, really good for him. Damon Lucas is just at 20. Miami getting a big discount, again, because Lucas is going to be 31 next year. So even though he's a 94 overall, you got to figure the clock is definitely ticking on possible retirement for him. McHenry and Makura at 19, getting nice extensions there. And then David Cunningham for Washington entering his age 32 season. If he plays on it, value of 15 for him. I don't know where Washington's getting that money. That'll be a fun thing to see as the year rolls over. And then as far as linebackers, the big stories here, there's a bunch of them. Brent Zunino with a value of 28. Big payout there for Vegas. Chicago getting a real team-friendly deal on Jehu Ginn, 82 overall, 26-year-old linebacker. I know his asking value was 29 and change, so getting him for 22 was a real break for Chicago. I mean, Ginn making less than Hilton is not what I would have expected, again, looking at their overalls. Even though Ginn is an off-ball linebacker and Hilton being possibly an edge rusher. So yeah, great deal for the Bears as they invest in their front seven. And then the biggest defensive number we've seen so far this extension season, Mark Soto of the Eagles, 77 overall edge rusher, a value of 30, which puts him, I'm pretty sure, top 5 amongst all edge rushers and top 5 amongst all linebackers in terms of total value. Really interested to see how that pays out in terms of years. I'm assuming it's a 5-year deal, but we'll see. But yeah, just in terms of total dollars, in terms of bonus, what they shelled out, this is a lot of money for a very good player. Zunino and Soto, these guys are absolutely worth it. But we're starting to see those numbers really jump up for the premier young players in the NFL. And then as far as the defensive backfield goes, a lot of high teens and low 20s. So for cornerbacks, Adrian Garner, 21, Colton Hayes, 19, Brad Jones, 16, Nate Simeon, 20. The big one there is Alan Laurent, a little bit of a higher overall, even though he's going to be 20. He's going to be 30 next year, getting a value of 27. So a big payout for him, especially when you consider the Chargers are paying both Laurent and Jones brand new contracts. And then free safety Matt Perez, fresh off his 5th-year option, 77 overall, getting a value of 17. Pretty good deal for the Ravens for him. But not every player was so magnanimous, and we had quite a few that are going to be continuing, presumably their negotiations. On the offensive side, Kenny White's going to be 31, but wanted a little bit more than 15. Same way with Ariel Lemon Jr. This is a rare case as a UDFA getting an extension, so even though he's only going to be 24, even though he's only in the high 60s, looking for a little bit bigger payday there. Tackles Ryan Dunn and Tim Guerra, getting good offers from Baltimore and Detroit, but wanting to up those numbers a little bit. Same with Noah Prater, 76 overall center. Chiefs started at 15, presumably going to have to go up from there. And then on the defensive side, Eagles, in addition to paying Soto that big extension, also working on a deal with Christian Pilardi. 21 was turned down for the 71 overall linebacker. And then Washington, again, not sure where the money's coming from, but they offered Carl Ogles a value of 15 entering his age 31 season. He turned that down, so we'll see what they do for next steps there. And then in the defensive backfield, a lot of guys holding out here, starting with Green Bay strong safety Manish Watson. I mentioned strong safety a few weeks ago as a position to watch in terms of kind of how all of the best strong safeties are all up for extension at the same time. Green Bay started with 20. Watson turned that down. We'll have to see where they go from here. And then free safeties, man, all banded together and knew their worth because Bruce Puello, Leonard Vaughn, and Sergio Collins all turning down offers in the high teens or, in Collins' case, even low 20s. Um, so, yeah, those numbers you expect to come up. All these players worth keeping around. Puello and Collins for their youth and upside. Vaughn is going to be 30, but he's a 91 overall safety, one of the best free safeties in the league by the numbers. Definitely worth paying out. And then Tennessee, in addition to Collins, also working on a deal for cornerback Robert Kennedy. He turned down a value of 17, so they're going to have to go back to the drawing board for that if they want to keep their young secondary together. So, more to come in future weeks. But that's where the numbers have started out after our first week of offers. And obviously, a lot of teams still to jump into extensions. So expect a lot more news in the next couple of weeks. Games next week, we're going to start on Thursday night with the Chargers facing the Bears. Both teams trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. Chargers one game back of the Raiders, but just had a big win. Chicago, as we said, has won 5 in a row. Should be an excellent game on Thursday night. Moving to the Sunday early slot, we have Atlanta going to Carolina to face the Panthers. Carolina has wrapped up that division, but a lot of seeding implications for those top 4 division winners. Any of them are in range of being the number 1 overall seed, which would be huge for home field advantage and a bye. So a lot to play for with Carolina. Atlanta still technically in the playoff race as well, 6-8, just a game behind the Seahawks and the Bears. Also at noon, we have Washington going to Buffalo to play the Bills. We'll see if weather plays a factor for a late season game in Buffalo. In the afternoon, Vegas is going to LA to play the Rams. 2 teams in great position, but with a lot still to play for. And then in the afternoon, we get the rematch of Denver at Kansas City. Denver prevailed the first time, which helped them wrap up their West Division. Kansas City has an incredibly tough ending schedule. They would like to get at least one more win to secure their wildcard chance and like some revenge on Denver after losing to them earlier in the season. Sunday night, yet another great cross-conference match late in the season with Miami at Dallas to face the Cowboys. And then on Monday night, Cleveland at Detroit. Cleveland looking to keep their postseason hopes alive after falling a game behind the Steelers. Looking for a victory over Detroit, who is also very much in the playoff hunt and has a lot to prove and a lot to play for as well. So it should be an excellent slate of games. Hope you stick around next week and follow along with us on Discord. That is everything I have for this edition of the SimNFL show. Thank you so much for watching. And as I say to all users in all of our sims, good luck and have fun.